Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see.
In review, we're talking about something that's not human. Talking about something where the whole experience of the life of God has no depth at all. There's no depth at all. No drama, no color, it's all things. It's eternal. It has no beginning, no end, and it is light. What do y'all feel about that? Totally, as right now, is just off the top of your head. How are you thinking about that during the week? Is there anything that really crosses your mind on how God is present in this universe at all times? What does that do for you?
I think it just keeps me in check. It just keeps me like having a reminder that when I want to start overthinking or if I want to bring drama into something, I can just step back and say, all right, I need to figure out what's around me and not take it to a humanly level.
You're recognizing the source of the drama.
Well, it's not always me.
Well,
but if I recognize drama coming in, I can say.
there's potential.
Yeah.
And this is not the source. This life, this is God. It is not the source of drama. It is simply what is true. It's not the source of drama. It is the source of life. And the response to simply what is true and happening right in your moment, without judgment, without condemnation. You ever feel condemned or judged? In this this life?
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like?
It's not good.
The reason why I ask, because this is also not the source of that condemnation or that judgment. It is not the source. Now, I went to pull it up on the screen here. I went to the Bible this week to look up something, and the scripture for the day on Bible Gateway is, and the verse of the day was Psalm 97:10. Let those who love the Lord hate evil, for he guards the lives of his faithful one and delivers them from the hand of the wicked. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot of judgment, there you go, in that statement. Do you see it? There's a lot of judgment. Hate. Wicked. You see what I'm saying? The reason being is because it is written out of a culture of human beings who judge and condemn. There it is. There are things you must hate. There are things that are evil. There are wicked from which we are delivered. Wicked people. Wicked. Very, very much a judgment and very much a condemnation of those that we are to be delivered from and that we are supposed to hate. But there is none of that in that life. None of it. No condemnation. There's no judgment. It's not even human. How do we how do we arrange in our thinking the words of the fathers who we've accepted in statement of faith and the way this life really is? How do we reconcile that? Well, Jesus came along, and he is also a product of his environment and culture. Trained in the synagogue, went to the synagogue, attended regularly apparently, as was his custom. Knew the law, the word, but I have a feeling that when he was saying, I tell you, whoever obeys my word will never see death, this word is just a little bit different than what we know and hold as the divine word of the Scripture. It's a little bit different. It is, God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in what is true. Now, most scriptures say in spirit and truth, but the word aletheia is simply truth. Aletheia is actually the way it's emphasized. And so, and this what is true is what proceeds from this 24/7 into our hearts, never ending, ever beginning, in every event and circumstance of our lives, revealing what is true in that moment. Don had asked last week, the homework would be to also speak what is true, or report. Have you seen any occasions when what is true made a difference in what was decided in an event or circumstance this week? Anybody? Or where what is not true became an instance, became an event or circumstance. Last week when you reported the water leak, and as we ended that story, you mentioned that, you know, what happened, did it get fixed? And what happened apparently was those folks who came to fix it, fixed it. Everything, I'm sure it's cleaned up by now. Everything is a go. It's just been refreshed because the whole universe comes together over that incongruent moment with what the goal is for that particular organization, and it is resolved and restored. That's the way this life works. The whole creation celebrates the revelation of simply being in the place we all need to be to make what is happening to accomplish what is before us. However, there could be one, if a person has an agenda, to use that mishap, I'd say, to their advantage to promote their role or agenda. Look what she did. Why she did that. You know, it doesn't do anything for the circumstance. It doesn't do anything to promote life or to promote the company. It is simply judgment, condemnation, and the elevation of the birth consciousness to be spotlighted as the perfect example of survival. Not her. She did all that crazy stuff. Me, I'm the one. The birth consciousness, I'm the one who did it. Remember the story told last week about the backhoe on the ditch? And I think I may have mentioned this about the general contractor who, when it was perched over the trench, was riding out on the road, and he took a picture of that. he was in his car, and he was going, and the road was right there, the backhoe was on the ditch right here, and he went by his car and took a picture. And I know that because one rainy day, we were sitting in the office, and he came in, and back then is when you'd go to Kmart or somebody have your film processed, and you have your little envelope with your pictures in it, you know. And so he walked in, and he was looking, and he said this as he was opening that envelope, "I've got you now." I said, "Now what do you think he was saying?" Stupid. Right? He was stupid. I got it. Didn't have anything that was going to make any amount of difference in the world other than the birth consciousness assumed that the chaos that's over there will elevate the perfection that is here. I've got you now. You're not a threat to me anymore. I'm going to expose your stupidity all over the construction world. You know. And that's kind of, do you see where I'm following? That's kind of, the birth consciousness is pretty normal behavior for the birth consciousness. In his case, I know that was what, I shouldn't judge that's what he was thinking, but what he said when he looked at the envelope and he cursed and he said a lot of things that I won't repeat here, and showed me what happened. And what happened was when his car passed in front of where he took the picture, there was another car coming this way. And when he took the picture, it was right in front of him. So it was these two girls in a convertible, and they were going, and that's all you could see in the picture. And he cursed because he didn't have a picture that would elevate him and discredit the goings on out there in the field, right? So, and that's another thing about what is true that I want to bring up, is that it's like this flow of what is true from this. It's like a river, and it flows and it's full. And when the writer in Psalm talks about, or the writer in the Old Testament talks about, the Lord covers my sins, my misdeeds. Do you see, that's kind of what happened when the car passed in front of the man taking the picture. And the reality is that if we're just moving in what is before us, if we're just obeying what is true for us and not with an agenda to disrespect or to accomplish something that's over our, just simply for our ego or something like that, but just what is happening in our lives before us, just to accomplish what is to the next step in our life. This flowing is huge and full. And it's full, and it covers us in the circumstances of our lives. But when we move out of an agenda to selfishly judge, condemn, create chaos, thinking that that's going to achieve something in my life, moving out of not out of what is true, but choosing what is not true, developing a lifestyle based on what is not true, then it's like we turn the valve off in our heart to that flow. And the flow dries up in our lives, in our consciousness, but more than that, even in our physical lives. So that, you ever remember back when they had the drought, big drought, Falls in the News Lake, Falls Lake, went down about 100 feet. And you could see old boats out there and stuff in the water that had been thrown out and garbage and everything. I don't know if you remember when it got down that far, but you see all that. That's what I'm describing here, is that when this valve is cut off by our own ways and our own agenda, it exposes, because the flow is not there anymore. And it's out there. Jesus said, nothing shall be hidden. Now, the goal is not to hide anything, but I'm just saying, if you're out there just doing what is true, and you're living by what is being flown, is flowing to you, to me, and I'm simply acting out of what is happening now, and not trying to get over on somebody, or trying to defeat, or try to condemn, or to judge, that this flow overcomes. It just overcomes. I just want to throw that out. It's part of the aletheia of life. Jesus said, why do you ask me what is good? There's only one who is good. And he's pointing back to this life that has no death. We know death as humans because our birth consciousness believes that life begins at birth, where life has no beginning and no end. We believe that when this body is done and lays down without breath, that death happens without any consciousness of that which is before us and that which is behind us. Psalm 139 is a testimony. You get a chance to read past verse 12. It's a testimony of how the Lord formed and knitted me in the womb, said the writer. You knitted me there. I was already there before the womb. As the birth consciousness, we really don't understand that until the essence, as in the cosmology that we had talked about before, permeates us with an experience of this life. My grandmother lived right up the street from us when I was a boy. And I would walk, I was a busy boy. And so I would walk to Mikey's house or to Terry's house or to church to play, ride bicycles, to play baseball. But I'd pass her house, and my grandfather, her husband, passed away early for a man. He was about 55, I think. He passed away. So she lived till she was 80. So she worked as a nurse's assistant at a hospital. Would go to work and spend a lot of time in the house. And I would pass by on my way to playing, or wherever I felt like it was most important for me to be, on the baseball field or whatever, and I would hear her playing the piano in her house, out in the window. I would hear her just singing, playing. I mean, that part of the house seemed like it was just kind of vibrating with the vibrations of joy and play. And sometimes I would even sit there under her window and enjoy that. And of course, being a kid, now as an adult, I wish I'd gone in and sat with her actually on the bench, but being a kid, I had to go play. I couldn't do all that. So I got to move on down the road. One day, whenever I came home as an adult, and I saw her, and I went to her house, and she pulled out a song that she had written and had copyrighted back in 1930 something. Library of Congress. Roses red, roses white, roses I gather for you. I know the line. I remember the line now. And I said, Mama, can you play that song? She sat down and she just played it like it was, her whole body was in it. And she just sang it, and she just sang it and played it. And it came over me so strongly that she was singing that to Jack. Jack was her husband. Jack's name, Jack. And Jack was her husband, and she was singing that to him. And I said, Mama, you've never been without Jack, have you? And me, it just washed all over me that this was, She was never alone in the house. She was playing for Jack. But she knew that was his life. It died. In the same spirit that Matthew 17:4, where Peter says, hey, there's Moses, and there's Elijah, and there's you. We need to build some altar booths, something here. We need to honor this situation because we just saw them. And they're supposed to, and Jesus really got, he got ripped up by the Pharisees and Sadducees who said, this man's a demon because Abraham's dead and Moses is dead and Isaac is dead and he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's when he said, you won't see death as you're obeying his word. You won't see it. And that's an interesting way to put that because it is as if to say that in this body, what we see will never be out of sight of life, even when this breathless body lays down. It will never be out of sight of life. It will not close to darkness, or if that is the life, then may that be what it is. But whatever our eyes close to, we will not see what you see when I'm gone. That makes sense. We're not separated. And in the evidence of my faith, I know y'all read that, and I'm going to tell the story again. The first person I met in Wake Forest when I came up here was Dr. Fred Sandusky. He was the registrar at the seminary. And I came here to go to the seminary, so every student, at that time there were about 600 students annually, and every student through the application process, through the settling in process, had to report to Dr. Sandusky. And Dr. Sandusky would handle everybody's paperwork and story and needs. And he just knew everybody that ever came through the doors for ever how long he was the registrar, which was years and years and years. And he was, I like to refer to him, and I do this to honor him, and his connection to this life. His connection to this life in the sense of he was not separate from the integer that he was, or he had evidence that he did not have a lot of separation in the integer, the one that he was in his body with the life that is. And one way that he did that was when I came here, I ran out of money and had to go and drop out seminary. I just got here and called him up from South Raleigh. Hey, he didn't know me from the other 600 people, that were enrolled, and all those that applied that didn't get in. He didn't know me from none of them, but I just got here. I called and said, hey, I'm here. Where do I go to go to school? And I didn't have no plans to live in, nowhere to go, no place to go. Run out of money. He did give me some contacts for rental places and stuff, and but I had to go to him very quickly and say, I registered, but I have to drop out. He said, well, now we have something that goes on in the spring. We have a course for people just like you that will keep you in the seminary, so keep in touch. That's the only time I'd ever sat down with him, was to drop out. He would tell me, come back next spring. Now, he's got all these people in his office all the time, doing all this stuff, And then one day, in the wintertime, this is September, October, November, December, January, February, and it's cold, and I was in Holloway's grocery store. Now, I don't know if y'all know about Holloway's grocery store. If you go to the Hardee's, and right across the street is the old car dealership that's now a used car place. if you go to the left of that, there used to be a Lyons grocery store behind that, but there's a building there, and it's still used. It was a bookstore for a while, it's still being used for something. That was Holloway's grocery store. It was the only grocery store besides the Red and White in Wake Forest at the time. And it was small, and it was, the aisles were small, and my basket was small. I'm pushing my basket through Hollowell's, and I see Fred coming. And Fred was easy to spot because he had kind of like something going on, kind of like me with my neck. He had something going on where he had kind of a tilt to his neck, and so I could easily spot Fred coming. He walked on, and he kind of bumped into my cart, and he was getting some stuff, and he kind of glanced out of the side of peripheral vision. He said, the question that he asked me was based on the months before, when he said, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do with yourself, to make money?" I said, "Well," and I told him back then that I was a concrete truck driver, learned my senior year in Baylor, and got my CDL license that summer working for a concrete company. And I had told him that months ago, but he didn't even say hello, didn't say hi, didn't say nothing. This was months later in Hollowell's, and he went, "How much does that concrete truck weigh?" Like he had never even broke the conversation. And I said 42,000 pounds or whatever it was at the time, It was like there was no separation between life and what is true and his consciousness. And it sort of points to a non-separate existence with all things in the moment. He didn't know everything about my life, but he recognized, I don't know if I had any distinguishing features. No, I don't know if I looked broke and tired. Maybe that was what it was. But anyway, he has. And the more I got to talking about with former students, is he has stories. People had stories about him like that. Everybody did. That he was not disconnected from all the things that had happened in his life, and tremendous stories, much more powerful than mine, of him recalling just like that something in an event or circumstance. So I say that to say this, is that the less we move in our agendas, and the more we just simply respond to what is true, it gives the opportunity for all things that this is to penetrate what is happening in the moments that we are in and in the circumstances that we are in, to accomplish what is before us. And they become clearer, too. I don't know if you have any occasions where you might remember that type of recall. But that's one of the things I see in this thing. They began, for me, happening in 1999, following what is true, for trying to determine what is the best place for me. Like I say, whenever I started digging with a shovel on the Neuse River, and that's what was true for me at that point. And I just let that happen, just participate, become a mechanic, see the equipment. Hey, what's next? Get on the equipment, run the equipment. What's next? Hey, go find a job that's closer to home, less hours because we had you at that time as a little baby, and need to be home more and as much as possible. So then just let what is true, just keep working, keep moving. And then in 1999, found myself in a chaplain internship at a local hospital on an excavator, and the internship I had to do in the evenings, which this thing just feeds itself. The first time that I was chaplain intern was from Dick McKay. And it was right out of this church. Tammy said, "Barry, you need to do something with that, with what you do. You're doing the construction thing, you're providing for your family, but that's what was next, but there's something you do that should be honored and developed." And so I said, "Yeah, Tammy, I think that'd be a great idea." I came to church on Wednesday night, and going into the main church, the steps going up from the old fellowship hall, I ran into, it was Robert Pettyjohn. And Robert Petty, I said, Robert, I'm thinking about seeing what it means to become a chaplain. He says, you need to talk to Dick McKay. And so I turned around, and here Dick McKay walks in. And I said, I think that might be the man I need to talk to. I said, I'm thinking about, entering into a program for chaplain work. And he said, he was the chaplain at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Durham. And he ran the internship, the clinical pastoral education program. See how these things just happen? They happen to all of us. They don't happen to just me. It's just an example to bring awareness to the things that have been going on in your life have really been connected to this that has no judgment and has no condemnation. It's just making things work in our lives when we don't have anything that we're holding against or judging or condemning or just trying to get through with what's happening. Well, anyway, so he comes in. He said, meet me at, come up to the office, and I applied, and I got in, and he told me that the first vote from the management of the VA hospital was a no vote. That they did not expect that with my work in the construction business, providing for my family, that it would be too much for me to do this clinical pastoral education program. And so the vote was no. And I wasn't aware of that. And Dick McKay said, no, I want him in this program. Told him, he said, I'll take, whatever happens, I'll take the blame. Whatever. He stood out there on that thing and pushed for it. He's part of the life that is what is true. The creation is working for what is needed for that moment. And so he told me that later, but I remember the first day that I was supposed to be at the VA hospital on my duty of clinical pastoral education. I had to be there in the middle of the afternoon, which is when I was supposed to be digging as well, and it snowed. Snowed. First day. Snowed. First week was a big week. You had to get all the administrative stuff done, get settled into the routine so that I could possibly do strange hour work. But that first week was indoctrination into how to work in that hospital setting in the normal hours. Right? Snow. 4 days couldn't dig a ditch. 4 days couldn't dig. And every day I was there getting that training to do what was necessary. And then throughout, and that's once again, the river's flowing. It is being what is needed. It was the manna of what is needed. And so I have these real strong feelings and thoughts about what is climate change. Because in that moment, remember I mentioned the quantum manifestation, in that week, there was climate change that extended my journey into what was next. It allowed that to happen. And it's not the first time, and it won't be the last. I told y'all the story about building that parking lot, didn't I? Across the street from the church. Let me just tell you about this, because it's very connected to this whole, what this thing really means. Our church is on the corner, and the crosswalk goes into a gravel parking lot. Okay, you got that? That gravel parking lot used to have a house on it, and I forget how many, it's 4 acres, I think. And then there's a second area now that has been added to it, but at the time it was 44 lots that were going to be developed. And the folks in the church came to me. They said, "Hey, Barry, you do this stuff, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Or I'll do it for the price. I'll rent a loader. I'll charge you by the hour for my time. And we'll build the parking lot like you need to." And so they said, "Yeah, that's a great deal. It's kind of like time and material, you know." Well, so I rented the loader, had them drop it off, and it was just dirt, and they had tore the house down, the foundation, all that stuff was gone. Not the trees or anything like that, but just topsoil. I knew all the topsoil had to be stripped off, and everything kind of leveled out. And I had to put a little fence, a little erosion control fence around the 4 acres, which I did. I rented me a little walk-behind trencher and trenched me 6 inches down all the way around the property. And I went out there by myself in the evening, taking stakes and knock them in, and put up the wire, put up the fence, did that. Then I'm out there and I'm piling this dirt up. I'm getting the topsoil off because you have to take that up, get down to the red clay and get you a base for your stone base, right? So getting all that up. And then this guy drives up. And he's a local paving excavation contractor. And he says, "So, you doing this for the church, huh?" I say, "Well, yeah, that's what we're doing here. We're going to get it done." He said, "What you going to do with all that dirt?" I said, "Well," I tell you the truth, I don't know. It's making a big pile right now." He said, "Well, I've got dump trucks and a place to take it. If you'll let me have it." I said, "Oh, that's just the way this coordinates things. You know, here I am. I need a dump truck. I need a place to take it, right?" So this is all coming together. Come to find out, the man was a contractor that church had asked for a price to build the parking lot. And his price, as a stone parking lot, and his price they felt was very high. But not only was he going to make the price for the parking lot, but he was selling the dirt to someone on another thing. So he was actually making double on this, which was a good thing. That's a good thing. But whenever the church came to me and I said, "Well, yeah, I can do it. Let's get out there and just run that piece of dirt." Now here he comes and wonders what's going to happen to the dirt. So, in the spirit of the life it is, he can sell that dirt because I'm going to give it to him. Because it would be worth more for me to get rid of it than I have to pay to haul it off. You know. So all of a sudden now, I'm loading trucks. Trucks coming in, going out, coming out, all this stuff. And we're moving. He's getting what he wants. I'm getting what I need. Church is getting what it needs. All this stuff is moving, okay? Okay, so I got all this dirt now, and I've got good old Carolina red clay, right? Exposed. You know what happens when it gets wet? Well, it's not pretty. And easily tracked on the roads and stuff like that. But it's not wet. Yeah, but it is out there. The whole 4 acres, the whole 44 lots, now they're ready for stone. It's on a Wednesday night, and the church is meeting. I'm still out there at dusk, moving the stuff, cutting on the loader. And dark as cloud you can possibly imagine. It's down south, like you're looking off that way where it was. Yeah, it's that way, right there. You're looking off that way, dark as cloud ever. It's like impending upon us. It's like a boulder coming in the sky. You know, I'm going, this is not good. You know, this is not going to be good at all. So this, I see people coming out from the church on Wednesday night. They were finished, and it's still dark, and I'm out there on the machine, you know, and I finish up, pack it in, and go home. And I sit down and turn on Greg Fishel, at the time WRL weather, and he's got the Doppler, and he's going, "This is just so hard to believe. Look at this big front just evaporate over Wake Forest." He said that, and I went, change. He said the words. It just dissipated. He said, it just evaporated over Wake Forest. Okay. So, it passes, doesn't, I'm dry, I'm still dry. But I need now many loads of stone, ABC stone, tracking in it. I called my contractor that I was going to be working with. Hey, I got this little project. I'm going to be a couple of days, probably a couple of days getting back to you because I'm working on something for the church. He said, what are you working on? I said, I'm building a parking lot. You are? I said, yeah, I need some ABC stone. He said, look, every dump truck around Cary got washed out last night by that big rain. They can't even move nothing. I said, why don't I send them trucks up there to you and stop by the quarry and get the stone? I had trucks rolling in, pushing it off as fast as they could dump. It's this. It comes out of this. It's all things needed in that moment. What's the matter? It was the matter. Now the matter is these dump trucks come in. Them guys just have things because they thought they were going to have to take off and miss their hours, that they were getting. Instead, they were on the payroll, being paid. Okay. Keep track of the time, with tickets and everything. Church pay for it. That's what we're supposed to do, and that's just the way it worked. Okay. So now I got all this stone in, but DOT, Department of Transportation specs say that to set this ABC stone, you got to have water. A lot of water. I mean, a lot of water. I had a little roller I had in it, a little vibratory roller. But it doesn't do any good unless you get it soaking wet. What it is, the ABC is 1 inch rock to 3/4 inch rock, mixed in with screenings, dust that's pulverized in the process. And when you wet that consistency together and you pack it, it dries really hard, like a base. That's what they put asphalt on. Well, that's what we need to do out there. I had, at the time, there was another house, and the place is the new addition there past the big tree. And it had a guy said I could use it. It had a 3/4 inch garden hose. I got 4 acres up there. I got to get wet. And I've got a 3/4 inch garden hose. Spray it. And I'm going, this is not going to work. And all of a sudden, this huge, dark cloud comes over this area and pours down rain. And I'm on the roller, soaking wet, singing hallelujah, vibrating and enjoying the climate change. All from the life that is. No condemnation, no judgment. This is not human. But all things, what it is, needless to say, is still out there. it's over there, it's still over there. Okay. Alexa, what time is it?
It's 7:09 p.m.
Okay, all right, good. Got a female voice today. I didn't like that. I got it. Let me let her read. Let's do it. Let's let her read. Alexa, ask the Bible to read Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 and 9.
Chapter 55 only has 13 verses. Please try your request again.
Well, I didn't say that right, did
You said 8 now.
Psalms chapter 24 verses.
No, I don't want that
Who
one.
shall say
Alexa, stop.
Alexa, ask the Bible to read Isaiah chapter 55, 8 and 9.
The book Isaiah only has 66 chapters. Please try your request.
She doesn't do like Google does. She's sort of a mess. Let me try her on another
She's a
one.
mess.
I could not find a book called Yes, Please Repeat Your Request.
Alexa, ask the Bible to read Matthew chapter 19, verse 17.
Matthew chapter 19 verse 17. And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is, God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments.
It's no good. This is Jesus talking. This is Jesus. This is the one saying, there's only one. Only one. It all comes from this. And it's not in the past. And it's forever in the future. It is always in our presence, allowing what is true to happen to us. Never see that. What is true? So we're getting through the first three elements, which are built on the fact that the third one being that, life doesn't begin with this human form, nor does it end when this ends. And so the next, as long as we understand what this life really is that as Isaiah wrote, my thoughts are not your thoughts, saith the Lord, declares the Lord. Neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts are your thoughts. I mean, as far as you can get away, that is different than us. So, and as we allow this, which we are of this, as we talked about before, as we allow that which is what we are, to respond and be a willing participant in what this is, then all things in this existence, in this moment, come together. As Paul said, come together. Somehow, somewhere. And remember what we talked about last week. It doesn't matter if you have a goal, and that goal is to accomplish a certain thing, and you get off the point, you want to try to get here, and you move in this direction. Well, there's no condemnation. There's no judgment. It's just simply, miss the mark. And the kingdom of God is at hand. Wherever we are. It's immediate. The potential for being in what is true is wherever we are. If we made it to this point, that's great. But this becomes the most important point, wherever we find ourselves. And that's where Don had mentioned before, don't beat yourself up too much when you feel like you've gone astray, because you're not astray. You're still in the presence of the kingdom of God. And so there, a new next begins. A new goal begins. A new what is true. And it starts from wherever we are, wherever we find ourselves in the moment we're in. Any comment about that? Sometimes we think, I gotta do this. I ain't got enough time. So I'm gonna do this to get there quicker. I'm gonna do something that's outside of the path to get there quicker. We've seen many construction safety videos on guys who are, completely compromised in their bodies from accidents because they needed to get there quicker without using the protocol for that particular work project and found themselves in danger. Because it's the manipulation of our lives that bring us to this point. But if we're in that point, the kingdom of God's not anywhere further away. It's always right there with what is true. It's never gone anywhere. It's always at hand, in our consciousness, to move us from this point. And that may eventually, ultimately not be the goal. Might be something else. Okay? And so, the whole idea of time, I tell this story about time because I think it's relevant, is that with a patient in the hospital, and the patient is speaking out of her heart. And she realizes that one of the reasons she's in the hospital is because of this dis-ease that she has come upon her. It's a dis-ease. And she's not comfortable in the fullness of her life. And so we begin to talk about how to find ease in what is true about her life, and how she can communicate with folks what is true, and how that resolves things. And she began to see that, well, there's so much to that. The more I speak that's for my own agenda, to control the things that I want to do and manipulate people to do what I want to do, the more things get messed up. And now things at home are really, really getting messed up, and I feel bad. I have this disease with life, and here I am in the hospital, and I have a meeting I'm supposed to be at. It's a chaplain's meeting, and it's my second internship, by the way, a different hospital in the VA. And at that meeting, it's supposed to happen at 11 in the morning. This is going on. So I raise my consciousness up to the life. What am I supposed to do? This lady's fixing to find a resolution and feel good about herself. Am I supposed to make it to the meeting, get there on time? What am I supposed to do? And what came in my consciousness as fully as anything that you could hear was, as much time as needed here, spend it here. Because that's where life is happening. Life is happening here, in your presence, as much time as you need. So, listened, responded, listened, saw her countenance. You see people's, when they come into and begin to participate in what is true and see the potential for it to resolve all the complications in their lives that they've experienced, and it comes over them like a change in countenance, and it's the best way I can describe it. And she was experiencing that, and we got to this point where and there's always something in the universe, always all things, something in the universe that would move that type of event to another level or to another place. Like, for instance, someone in the hospital would come and say, it's time for her to have her vitals and her lab work done. It's time for you to go. Always. Always. Never didn't have something of all things come in and move me to where it was next. I didn't have to worry about being somewhere too long, and I still don't, wherever I am, because I know that time is a birth consciousness thing. Now, so what happened was I left the room about 10, 12 minutes after 11. I'm late. I go up to the 6th floor, the office is, and all the people are supposed to be there. And I go in, and there's nobody there. And I'm wondering, hey. I go in, and right behind me comes one of the people who's participating with a stack of papers. The copying machine wouldn't work, and finally got it working. Now we got it working. We can all distribute these things. Somebody else come in. I had a patient do this. Somebody else come in. And all of a sudden now, the room is full of people because everybody's there on time. Okay? On time. Not at the projected time, but on time. Now, is that to say we draw calendars out and we don't honor time commitments? No, that's not what we're saying. What I'm saying is that our consensus reality that we live in as human beings has established time as the gauge by which we are moved from one event to another amongst ourselves. And if we want to participate in this human economy for this body by which we do the things that we need to do to participate in the human economy, like make money and pay our rent, pay our bills, then we honor the time that is created by the consensus reality that we are as humans. It's easy. Just do it. However, if a situation comes up and it is revealed that this life is moving in a way that is immediate, and if I can choose life or I can choose suffering, if I'd have walked out at that point, there would have been suffering for her and for me, because I was being healed in her healing. You know, it was as good for me as it was for her in that situation. I was feeling life come into the room and the joy and satisfaction, and I would miss that. But if life is happening, then I have to trust that the whole creation, as Paul said, the whole creation awaits and celebrates the revelation of one who will respond in willing participation and honor this as well. So I take it to the field. I'm out in the field. I'm at the project, got on a big excavator. We're over at the EPA site over there in Research Triangle Park. Two twin 6-story buildings being built, and they're piping the chill water and steam from the towers over to a new central energy plant, which is about a quarter of a mile. It's a long way to walk up the big excavator. But they needed the excavator from the side I was on, all the way to the woods, to a place where they were putting in dirt and needed me to put the dirt in to backfill some special dishes and stuff. So I start walking the machine. Friend of mine from work, Jim, he jumps up on the track. Hey man, starts telling me about his situation at home, where he's been a jerk. He realizes it. And he's wanting to know what do you think about this and all this stuff. And I said, well, I can be a jerk too. I can relate. So, I understand. And we talked about what is true. How do we get there? How do we present ourselves with what is true and what is not true? And how what is true always seems to be the satisfaction of that person I'm in a relationship with over what is not true. Always just wants what is true. So we got to that point. And I thought to myself while we were talking, I said, how long do I spend talking about this relationship on this, $300 an hour machine and, and a long way from it, stopped in the woods here, talking about this thing. And it just came to me, as long as it takes. So we talked and we got to that point where we both were satisfied that we were going to improve ourselves on that life. And we could see clearly what was true about that situation. And we would be a willing participant in what is true to resolve those issues of the relationship we had at home. So we did. And so I'm tracking up to this, around this corner. And I get around the corner of this big concrete structure, and there's nobody's doing anything. Machine's sitting there, and the guy standing next to it, and behind me is running a fuel truck, bringing fuel because they had run out of fuel. So they couldn't have done anything anyway while I was gone. It just seemed to work in that fashion. And so I come in, the fuel truck comes in, fills up, the bulldozer's going to push the dirt, and the camping equipment's going to pack the dirt, and then pulls out, and everything's ready to go to work. On time. Okay. On time. On time. Are we going to throw our calendars away? Are we going to not honor what time we have to be places? No. Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 7:24 p.m.
We've got 2 minutes here, I think. See what I'm saying? We honor, because it's a consensus reality that we live in the human economy that we participate in. However, let us not forget that life didn't begin with this, and it doesn't end with this, and that the fullest participation of it is to participate and choose life when life is in our presence, which is every moment. In our circumstances, under time, in whatever time it is, always on time in the big picture. Does that make sense? Anybody? Y'all want to comment on that?
Well, I want to comment from the point of view that I like to hear all of your experiences with it, and I think I think that's true, But I also look at it from the perspective of, obviously, everybody's not there. Everybody's, and I've only been thinking about things this way for about a year and a half, right? So I'm starting to see things more this way and trying to pay attention, but we're surrounded by people, right, that we have to work with, and that things don't always seem to work out as well as when you're in tune with it. So there's still that difference of trying to break away from what we've been doing for the last, 45 years, in my case, 46 years, to how I want to do things from now on. Because, I went through a big, we could talk for a long time, some other time about this, but, the big thing that happened to me was I graduated, I moved to North Carolina to get a job, and I had that same job for 23 years. And then I lost that job last March. And it just so happened, I think there's a reason for that, and I'm starting to see possibilities of what I may want to do, but I'm not there yet. Like, I'm not I'm not confident that, I'm just going to be in the moment and I'm going to do what I feel I'm called to, and I'm not that trusting yet. But so I guess it's another thing that I've been thinking about this past week, from the last lesson with Don about, speak only what is, or don't speak anything that's not true, and speak what is true. I find myself sometimes getting into conversations like this, and it's like, wait a minute, I can't explain what I'm thinking to a normal person. You know what I mean? Because it's just like they have no frame of reference. I could say that here, because at least, even if you don't understand where I'm coming from, you get a little bit more of a sense, because we've all been listening to the same information, kind of getting in tune, so to speak.
Exactly.
But if I was just to go out and say everything I just said to somebody, in the parking lot, they'd be like, whoa. What are you doing? Where are you coming from?
That would be what is, in a sense, that would be what is, not true for that moment. Just like the guy who, I have a copy of the Elements of What Is True on the seat of my car, and I have a banana sitting next to it, and I pull up to the corner, and he's got a sign that says, I'm hungry. I could give him a copy of the Elements of What Is True, but it wouldn't mean anything to him. Right. But the banana, give it a banana, it's hungry. What it is, I want to encourage you, and we're going to talk about this next week, is the enemy, that person outside of us, that illusion that we have that people are different, that we're all different. We are. We have all different characteristics and stuff like that. But in the big picture of life, it all comes from that. And I want to encourage you to see that it's not about what other human beings are to me. It's about my relationship to what is true in whatever occurs in the relationship with others. I'm not trying to move somebody to something. I'm not trying to convince somebody of something about me. Just simply what is true. It becomes a joy to experience it helps to push away their agendas too, when they realize another person realizes all you're wanting is what is true. All you're living in is what is true. And they can relax. And they don't have to put this image up. And they don't have to bring their baggage to the situation because it's so simple. Why? Because I'm practicing a willing participation in what is true. And when they bring drama, there's no drama here in life. And so when drama's being brought, listen, respond, but it's not my drama. And the most disheartening thing to folks who really love drama is not being able to create drama and everybody else around them. It's really disheartening, because that's the substance of that person's goal at that point. To catch, will you love me? You love my drama. When reality is, will we be willing participants in what is true when this drama is going around, and not get caught up in our minds in the illusion of that which is so important to others, if it is outside of what is true for who I am. I think that's something I would really like to encourage, is that this particular willing participation has no agenda for others. Just like this has no agenda for others, believe it or not. It has no agenda for others. It is just light. And if we don't participate in it, we just miss it. It's not like going to miss. It's not going to miss anything, because it's light. It's the fullness thereof. It's the fullness of all there is. It is the joy, the happiness, if you want to call it joy and happiness and care, whatever it is. But it has no agenda for anything other than life. Life. You bring your drama to it, it just has, what does it do? It's our drama. It's what we project on it. It's just life. It's just the fullness thereof. And if we don't participate in it, if we get caught up in judging other people, what they're doing and how they're doing it and everything and where they are, then we miss it. Just be what is true. If somebody has a request or information, needs information, what is true? Say what is true. We don't have to make up something to support their drama. Or go searching for something to help them build them up in their drama, because hey, if I build them up in their drama, they might recognize me as being important to them, and then I'll be loved. I'll be happy, because I'm accepted. That's not what we're looking at. It's just simply living in what is true. And it's like Jesus called it, it's like the yeast, that little bitty thing that just spreads through and makes the bread the loaf. It makes it, but it's so small. And that's the first time when all is breaking loose, and somebody's, you see people at different stages of their lives, and yes, may not be aware. Trust me. Jesus dealt with a whole generation not aware. They killed him. They had enough. They killed him. So we're always around the unawareness. But the idea is, in the awareness of what is true, we're only asked, or not even asked, we're only compelled by the compounding interest it is in our lives, because we have seen its evidence before, and we know that we can trust what we do in response to what is true. It will work. And the more it compounds itself, the more experience it, the easier it is to be a willing participant in it. And we're all at different levels of being able to. I'm a birth consciousness. I'm going to judge and condemn and have drama and all that stuff. The idea is, though, if I'm a willing participant in what is true, I see all that stuff fall away. It's irrelevant. And then I begin to see that not only by not participating in somebody else's level of, and we actually, it's not a level, what I call it is, and it's one of the elements, the degree of understanding. They're not levels, it's just degrees of understanding this. You'll get some people who, give you two examples. Remember the guy next to the ditch, real quick? Comes in, his degree of understanding is, and he said this, I need money, I need cash money. He's standing next to a ditch, we're in the street, and all this stuff's going on and everything. I need money, I gotta catch a bus and go to West Virginia and see my daughter who's got leukemia. And he, he's disheveled, he's a homeless basically guy. And he said, I gotta have money because I gotta go see him. I go, now, what do you think of his motives? What do you?
I can judge.
Huh?
Don't make me judge.
Yeah, I mean, but just what hits you as a
Right,
human being.
yeah.
You know, what hit me was well, what is true. You don't need to be here in this ditch because this is a liability, and I don't have any cash, so I can't really help you. But I am aware of a shelter that's right down the street. If you go down there and get you food, they probably can make connections for you, and you'll be okay. The Lord is not going to leave you, destitute in your desire. And he acted just like the guy at the gate when Peter and John came into the gate in the book of Acts, and the guy had been laying there all his life, since crippled from birth. He'd been laying there since he was crippled from birth. And all of a sudden, and he's begging, and all of a sudden Peter goes over there, and he says, he had to holler at him. He had to yell at the man, look here. Because the man was so used to people walking by without doing anything, he wasn't even listening to when somebody had something for him. And he had to yell at him. He said, silver, gold, all you got, and with such as I have give I you. It was like he got the connection. He got a life connection. He felt the energy of somebody actually paying attention to him. He'd spent all his life being told he won't be nothing. We're going to take him immediately to the gate, and that's where you're going to be. And that's where it was. Did he develop over his life? Who knows? Because nobody cared. So when Peter comes along and just gives him some attention and it presents the light to him, this man gets up and walks. Life. In his degree of understanding. This man on this ditch had somebody actually tell him, you're okay, I don't want you to get hurt. Hey, there's a place down there for you. I got no money, but hey, the world is working for you. And he was almost singing going down the road. Give you one more example. Coming into Hamlet from Abington, Virginia, just about 3 weeks ago. Up in the Blue Ridge, Abington, Virginia's up in the Blue Ridge. And I had to go to another meeting in Hamlet, North Carolina, the next day, so I had to be there. So I drove at night, and I got into Hamlet about 10 o'clock. And I was at the convenience store. Now, to get to the convenience store, I was running parallel to a parking lot, and there was this lady, walking through the parking lot at 10 o'clock at night. I thought that was kind of strange. And then I pulled on into the convenience store, and for her to get to the convenience store, all she had to do was just walk straight on the same line with that parking lot to the convenience store. And I'm pumping my gas, but she doesn't do that. She walks all the way around the convenience store and gets in front of my car and says, hey, mister, and smiles. Well, how are you doing tonight? And pumping my gas. Doing fine. How are you doing? She goes in the store. She looked like she had been out for a long time. Okay, now, what would you think about this? Just as a human, how's that itch? How's it itch? What's going on? All right. That's her degree of understanding. That's her survival, right? She's doing some survival things, right? What she doesn't realize is when I go into the store, now I'll finish pumping the gas, and I go in the store to get my little libation to kind of fix my head a little bit. I'm standing at the counter to pay for it, and she's standing there, and the clerk is telling her, the clerk is acting really nervous, and the clerk is telling her, it's cold out there. Stay in here and stay warm. Stay in here and stay warm. She says, I got to get home. I heard this in my peripheral hearing, while I'm paying my stuff out here. I got to get to my kids, and I live right down the street, and the clerk is acting kind of nervous. She says, well, where do you live? I live on this so-and-so street. She says, you just stay here. Stay here. And so what was being revealed is this life was setting up for her to be taken care of. That girl behind the desk was going to take care of her. She was asking her, what can I, basically, what can I do for you? Stay here. Be warm. Stay here. Let me get this man out of the way, So I packed my stuff, and while I'm finishing getting my change, she just all of a sudden runs outside. Okay, she's standing outside now. Lights her a cigarette, right? I come out the door. Hey, mister, can you give me a ride home? Now, what is true? She didn't see what the Lord had set up for her. Okay? And as soon as I said, no ma'am, I'm on business and I got to keep going in my direction, and you too. And I kept going the car, and as soon as I turned my shoulder, that clerk came out of that office, out of that convenience store. Apparently she'd gotten somebody to fill in for her standing there. Got that girl, and they walked to her car, and she took her home. Because the Lord had already set up for her what is true. And it's happening, whatever degree of understanding anybody is, it's happening in all of us. At one time, all the time. No favors. It's just always happening. Leave it on that one.
I didn't know where that was going to go.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see.